5'9" with the real red eyes, and we dying inside. Oh, bodies in fluoride.
Yo, what is good, y'all? This is JV here, and today got a special video for you guys. If y'all haven't noticed, we're 6 months in the year, almost July, and it's basically, you know, we've gotten so many dope projects this year, so I wanted to compile a list of my favorite albums that have come out this year. If y'all watch my videos, y'all know, got the handy dandy phone on me to read my list. I ain't memorizing shit. But yeah, this is pretty laid back video, nothing super crazy about this one. This is by no means a ranking, and a couple of disclaimers before I get started. First off, these are my favorite albums of the year, so no EPs are included on this, only really full-length projects. I'm gonna make an exception for mixtapes for the sake of certain artists who put it out but treat it like an album. So I made it open to mixtapes, but not too many mixtapes actually made the cut. And keep in mind, these are just my personal favorite albums. I'm not saying that these are the best albums to come out this year. I'm not saying that if an album didn't make my list, it's not as good as some of the albums on there. These are just the albums I found myself personally listening to the most this year. So let's just get into it. For the sake of time, we got 20 albums here. I tried to cut it down more, but there's just, for different reasons, I was like, I need to incorporate all these albums in here. So we got 20 albums here. I'm sure this is a lot bigger than most people's mid-year list, or even top albums of the year at the end of the year. And probably at the end of the year, I'm gonna do my top 10. But these are my top 20 albums that came out this year. It's not in any particular order. These are just, you know, the albums I thought of and went through, you know, my history on iTunes. What have I listened to the most? And this is what I came up with. First, gotta give credit, my guy Kendrick Lamar, Untitled Unmastered. Basically, you know, some behind the scenes throwaway tracks that didn't quite make it onto To Pimp a Butterfly from last year. Big Kendrick fan, big West Coast fan. And I thought this album was absolutely fantastic. I don't know how he was necessarily treating it, if it was just a bunch of throwaways, but it did get a physical release, and I was able to pick up a signed copy of this album. Thought it was absolutely fantastic. The jazzy arrangement, how raw it is. I felt like Kendrick's throwaways are better than most people's fully mastered, fully, you know, worked on projects. So this is absolutely fantastic project. Next, Kanye's The Life of Pablo. I know, fairly divisive album. Some people don't fuck with it. Some people definitely fuck with it. Big Kanye fan. By no means is this his best album in my opinion, but I found myself revisiting it time and time again. And now that we have what I would think to be the complete project with, you know, St. Pablo on it, rearrangements of Famous and Wolves, you know, with Vic Mensa and Sia's vocals returned to it. Frank Ocean's little, you know, part separated. You know, we got so many dope songs on here. 30 Hours, No More Parties in LA. Just a fantastic album in my opinion. Father Stretch My Hands Part 1. Ultralight Beams. I've done, you know, my review on that, so I'm not going to go too into depth in it, but really love this project. Found myself revisiting it over and over again. It's not by no means a perfect album, but I think it's a great listen. Next, one of my favorite albums of this year, hands down, Kaytranada's 99.9%. I was super late onto this album. I wasn't listening to it when it first dropped, but finally when I got the chance to listen to it, this album's impeccable, man. From the instrumental tracks to the tracks that have, you know, the vocal contributions from Aluna George and Vic Mensa and a range of other people. I believe Anderson .Paak is also on this album. Just fantastic, man. And Kaytranada, I got turned on to his collaborative works. I believe he did some work with Anderson .Paak on Malibu, and he also did some work with Kendrick in the past. So I was super excited to hear, you know, my first taste into his solo material, and I was not let down. I find myself revisiting this track every other day, sometimes every day of a particular week. I love this project. It's great to listen to, just, you know, focusing in. It's great to ride out to. It's great to put out in the background while you're chilling with your homies. It's like for every mood, you know, you can listen to this album. Next we have Chance the Rapper's Coloring Book. Long-awaited Chance 3 follow-up to his last release, Acid Rap. That I was a huge fan of, and this is his third mixtape, but he's, you know, when it comes to Chance, his mixtapes, quote-unquote, they're albums. Incredible project. Again, I did a review of it, so if you want my in-depth thoughts on the album, go check out that. It's on my channel. Loved this album though. I've listened to it so many times. One of my most listened to projects of the year. Next we have Skepta's Konichiwa. Not a huge grime nerd. I don't have the most grime, expertise. For the most part, when it comes to, the UK rappers, it's basically Skepta, Stormzy, and JME. Those are the main people I know. But I was long awaiting for this album ever since I got, turned on to Skepta with, I believe, a song Shutdown. And then he had single before his album dropped called Man that I was really fucking with. So now that we dropped the album, thought it was fantastic. I did a JV's Jams where I incorporated it and I gave my in-depth thoughts on that. But man, loved Skepta's Konichiwa. Really diverse project, some great bars on it. Just great arrangement, great production, and it was great to hear him in full, studio length production. This is not his first album, but this is his first album that I personally heard. Next, we have Pouya's You. I've spoke the praises of these particular artists that I feel like are really killing it in the underground right now. Between Suicide Boys, Ramirez, Puya, Shakewell, there's a number of artists that I feel like are absolutely murdering it right now. And Pouya dropped his full-length album. I want to give a quick shout out before I go into UU to Fat Nick. He dropped out an album this year and it didn't quite make my top 20. I just want to keep it in here because I know him and Pouya are really close. Didn't quite make the top 20, but I want to give a quick shout out to that album. Really dope. But yeah, Pouya's UU, incredibly dope album. There's only like one song on it that I really don't like, and that's the one with the Yin Yang Twins. As much as I love the Yin Yang Twins, I felt like that song was really weird in the context of the album. But man, thought it was a fantastic body of work. He's really spitting on it. He's collabing with people we know that he has great chemistry with, and I thought it was as Pouya as an album can get, and I've basically had it on repeat since it dropped. Next we have Masta Ace, The Falling Season. Shout out to Masta Ace, man. I felt like this is an incredibly stepped on album. He is the absolute legend, man. I got turned on to him years ago when I started. His music goes way before my time. I believe his debut album probably came out in like 93 or some shit. But I got turned on to him with this song Jeep Ass Nigga, and I absolutely love that song. So when I heard he was dropping a new album, and I know he's associated with the, what is it, like Mellow Beats or something like that, and I'm sorry if I'm forgetting their name, but he's an incredible lyricist. So he dropped this conceptual record which basically tells a story of a boy growing up in New York, and basically his, him commuting to school and what he deals with the school all the way through graduation, and him, meeting different characters, participating in a sports team, and basically trying to make it out of, a hard situation and make something of himself. I think it's just a fantastic album, a genius project, and I really want you guys to check it out if you haven't thus far. Masta Aces, The Falling Season. Next we have Aesop Rock, The Impossible Kid, one of the best lyricists I've ever heard. There's a couple guys like Mr. Lift, Aesop Rock, MF Doom. Like, there's a couple guys who I feel like are just incredible lyricists, and Aesop Rock definitely I feel like belongs up there. The Impossible Kid, one of the best projects of the year by far. Production is on point on it. His lyrics are super dope. When it comes to Aesop Rock, I can't just sit there and break down all his lyrics. There's a lot of moments where I go into Genius and try to get some semblance of what he's talking about, but when you are able to basically crack that code and realize what he's talking about, it's some of the most incredible stuff, the most incredible penmanship I've ever seen. Next we have another favorite album of this year, Denzel Curry's Imperial. Man, been waiting for this album for a while. Now that we finally have it, I think it's an incredible project, man. Everything from the song, ULT, to his collaborative song with Rick Ross, man. Man, this is just a really dope project. It's short, it's concise, it's only like 10 songs or something like that, but he absolutely kills it. I did a review of this project again, so go look into that if you want my in-depth thoughts. Next we have Flatbush Zombies, 3001 A Laced Odyssey. Another long-awaited project. Flatbush Zombies out of New York doing a fantastic job. This is not my favorite project by them in their discography, but I gotta say it's a really dope project. Them, along with guys like Pro Era, Underachievers, ASAP Mob, they're doing some incredible stuff for New York right now, and was glad to hear them, with some high-quality production and a full studio-length project. I think they did a fantastic job for their studio-length debut. Next, we have some Korean hip-hop for you guys. Beenzino with his new album, 12. Y'all know Beenzino, my favorite Korean rapper. He's been doing some really, really dope stuff as far as singles go, along with, like I'm Going To, Break, Dali Van Picasso years ago. And so he put out this project, did a review on it, picked up the physical. Love this project, man. I find myself revisiting it constantly, man. This is a really, really fire project, really diverse, really demonstrate the abilities for not only Beenzino to vibe out on a beat, but really, expound upon hooks, melody, and just straight bars for sure. Next, we have Anderson .Paak with Malibu. Loved this project. I wanted to incorporate a little R&B and some of the crossover kind of albums that incorporate hip-hop influences, but maybe are predominantly singing. So this is, definitely a hip-hop / R&B kind of list, and, Kaytranada is, speaks to that. Anderson .Paak, man, incredible artist. I got turned on to him with, I believe, some of the work he's done with Kendrick in the past, and also he did some work with Dr. Dre on the Compton soundtrack. So I was excited to hear him in the context of a project. This is the first full-length project that I heard by Anderson .Paak, and then after the fact, I went back and listened to some of his older material. Man, he is a really, really dope artist. He put a great deal of craftsmanship. There's something about the arrangements and the way his vocals play into it. There's something, that voice, man, he has an incredible voice, man. And gotta give a shout out to him. Next, we have Death Grips, Bottomless Pit. What is a top 10 list or a top 20 list without some Death Grips? Incredible project. Some of my favorite material by them to date. Nothing particularly mind-blowing, nothing necessarily that they're treading new ground with this project. I feel like this is as close as they can get to, like, digestible to the mainstream listener per se, but I think it's a fantastic project from top to bottom. Nice, concise, put together project. Next, we have Royce the 5'9", Layers. Best hip-hop album of this year, in my opinion. Royce the 5'9", signed to Shady, did some work with Slaughterhouse, and still doing work to Slaughterhouse. One of the best lyricists in the game, for sure. And so to finally hear him do an album, and not only do an album of bars, but super well put together. It's not super rapidy rap to the point that somebody who enjoys more melodic things couldn't get into it. This has something for everyone. And Royce the 5'9" shows how you can make digestible music without compromising one's lyricism, without compromising the narrative. This is how you put together an album. And if you have not heard this album and you consider yourself a hip-hop fan, I don't know what to tell you. You played yourself. Check out Royce the 5'9", Layers. Next, Domino Genesis with his album Genesis. As an Odd Future fan, I've been an Odd Future fan probably since like 2009, 2010. It's been years now. Definitely one of my favorite members of Odd Future. He is an incredible lyricist, but this is an interesting change of pace. Like Tyler, I feel like they're incorporating more musical, jazzy sounds and are really tapping into a more mature sound, but something that I feel like they're really passionate about. This is not them buying into mainstream sound, them rapping over some Bay Area beat kind of shit like a lot of other MCs are doing. No, they really have a love for more soulful, jazzy material, and by they I mean, Domino Genesis and Tyler the Creator. And I feel like they're both tapping into a sound that I feel like is them at a very mature level. And I think this is a fantastic project. It kind of came and seemed to go for a lot of people. It didn't have a lot of staying time and a really long shelf life. But for me personally, I found myself listening to this over and over again, sometimes multiple times a day when it first dropped. And I just think this is an incredible project. Do not sleep on this. And again, next we have another Korean album, Dean with 130 Mood Trouble. Oh man, shout out to Dean. This album I feel like is one of the most influential projects to come out of Korea this year as far as the Korean scene is concerned. And the reason for that is that I've seen so many people's sounds be changed by Dean. I feel like Dean is bringing something very fresh to the Korean scene, not necessarily to the genre as a whole worldwide, because some of his music is a tad derivative, but I feel like he's a very talented lyricist, and he's bringing something very fresh and new to the Korean scene. And I'm glad that this project really worked out for him. We got a number of singles to come off it, like I Love It and Pour Up, and then Bonnie and Clyde. A number of songs to get off this album to really you know, boost him into mainstream success. And he's done a number of collaborations along with artists like Hayes. He just did a song with Taeyeon from Girls' Generation. He did a song with Crush a little earlier. So shout out to Dean, man. And he also has done work with Eric Bellinger and Anderson .Paak. Big fan of Dean, and I'm glad that this album has really, you know, boosted him into mainstream. Again, some more Korean material for you guys. Sleeq with Colossus, female MC out of Korea. Spoke her praises before, did a reaction to her song Liquor. One of the best, you know, projects out of the Korean hip-hop scene, in my opinion, this year. She's really spitting on this project. Some really, really dope production on this. Really, you know, clean, concise, to the point project. And shout out to Sleeq, man. Next, we have TK Tourist. Producer slash singer out of you know, Korea, doing a fantastic job. Slept on project, man. I've tried to speak the praises of this album since I've, you know, listened to it, and luckily I've had some people who be like, yo, I checked out that project, you were super right on it. This is an incredible project. I tried to do a reaction to him so more people could turn on to him. I'm trying to push this guy because I feel like people are sleeping on TK, man, and this is definitely one of the best projects to come out this year. And then lastly, Drake with Views. I was struggling whether to put this album in the top 20 because I think it's a dope project, but it's not Drake's best material. And for example, like 4 p.m. in Calabasas that he dropped after the fact, I think that's Drake spitting like crazy, but it's not even on Views, and it really should be. But, you know, I was like, you know what, let me throw it in there on the end. I am listening to this album a lot. I'm by no means saying that this is the best hip-hop record this year, because it's not really a hip-hop record. It's predominantly an R&B dance hall with traces of hip-hop in there. But you know what I gotta say, I enjoyed this record. It's not mind-blowing. He's not doing anything new on here. Drake's sound lately has been very derivative, but you know, I think it's a solid record. It's a little long, you know, 20 songs. But you know, I found myself revisiting it a number of times. There's some really dope tracks on it, like Western Road, Flows. I'm a big fan of Controlla. One Dance is doing incredibly well right now. He has that one song with Rihanna that I really, really enjoy, and that one song with Party Next Door. So shout out to Drake, man. He's doing some interesting stuff. But yeah, gonna go over the albums real quick before I end. Kendrick Lamar's Untitled Unmastered. Kanye West, The Life of Pablo. Kaytranada 99.9%. Chance the Rapper, Coloring Book. Skepta Konichiwa. Pouya's UU. Masta Ace, The Falling Season. Aesop Rock, The Impossible Kid. Denzel Curry's Imperial. Flatbush Zombie 3001 Laced Odyssey. Beenzino with 12. Anderson .Paak with Malibu. Death Grip's Bottomless Pit. Royce the 5'9" Layers. Domino Genesis with Genesis. Dean 130 Mood Trouble. Sleeq Colossus. TK with Tourist, and then Drake with Views. I tried my best to keep this as quick of a video as possible, but with 20 projects, you're bound to get a super fucking long video. But thank you guys for watching this far. Let me know what you guys have been listening to, and keep in mind, these are just what I've been listening to. So don't get too butthurt if your choice is not on my list, because again, we all have different tastes. We all have different things that speak to us in different ways. So let me know what you guys have been listening to. Let me know what projects you guys have been loving. And until next time, this is JV. I love you guys. Bye.